everybody. Welcome to a new semester at Thomas Nelson. I'm glad you all are here. What we're here to do today is to talk about what to expect if you're taking an online distance course here at Thomas Nelson Community College. We will also be having a sign person. I believe that there is a hearing impaired person in the audience, and we will be having someone sign shortly. All right, before we get started, I want to ask the audience a very important question, and you can answer with show of hands. How many of you have access to a computer every single day?
Yes.
Oh, very good. That's one of the first requirements for a distance course, is that you have to have access to a computer every single day, whether you're bumping your sister off of hers or whether you have one of your own at your house. So that's one of the first requirements for success in a distance learning course, is having access to a computer on a regular basis. My name is Jan Klingberg, and my counterpart, Ruth Smith, is right here. We are distance learning here at Thomas Nelson. We prefer the title Digital Goddess, but we will answer to normal names. We do the training for faculty here so that faculty can use Blackboard to help you learn. And what we're here today to talk about is what you can expect and what you will encounter in a distance learning course here on campus. Okay, now we're going to be deciding as we go through our materials today whether or not your learning style, your computer skills, your computer at home, and any other Blackboard or assistance options that you may need so that you will have success in your distance learning course. We're going to find out through the presentation if you actually fit the mold for a distance student, because the distance course is a little bit different than a face-to-face course. Okay, now distance learning can be very enjoyable. It can be a lot of fun, but whenever you add a computer in the mix, as those of you who do own computers know, that it always will complicate things a little bit. So one of the important things in distance learning, there are 5 different characteristics of distance learning people who have success in distance learning, and it can be enjoyable and it can be fun and it's always an adventure, but it's not necessarily for everyone. And so we're going to be going through some of the different characteristics of successful online learners to find out whether or not you will be successful in a distance learning course. Number 1, people who are enrolled in a distance learning course need to be independent workers and independent learners. Most people who are successful and enjoy distance learning courses work well on their own, unsupervised. They can set their own time and their own goals, and they can motivate themselves to meet deadlines. And another important thing about distance learning is that you will not have the social interaction that you normally get in a face-to-face course, but you will be able to interact with your fellow students in an online or digital environment. So we're going to be looking at that a little bit too. If you procrastinate and like to put things off to the last minute, like my husband does, you are going to have problems in distance learning, because it's not, distance learning courses are not kind of a free-for-all where you can submit them, your assignments, whenever you feel like it. You do have deadlines. There are due dates. Things have to be completed by a certain time. And if you tend to put off assignments, or you tend to put off and procrastinate till the last minute, you know something's going to happen to your computer. I'm sure all of you have met Murphy, and you're on a first-name basis with him. Well, Murphy says that the day before your project is due, your printer will crash, your hard drive will die, the monitor will freeze, something will happen. So if you wait till the last minute, you're going to increase your stress, and there may be issues that you might miss your deadline with because you're having technical difficulties. So you should not be a procrastinator if you want to be successful in distance learning. You also need to be a kind of person that enjoys the freedom of being able to pace yourself at your own pace during a course of study. An advantage of distance learning is that you don't necessarily have to wait for the rest of the class to finish an assignment. You can go on at your own pace. So if you don't procrastinate and you're not a put-offer, chances are you'll be successful in distance learning. Now, one of the caveats of working on a computer in distance learning is that you do have to have excellent reading skills, because most of the content that you're going to be delivered through distance learning will be in the form of text. And you need to have good reading and comprehension skills at a college level so that you will not frustrate yourself. Yes, there are some classes that have video and auditory components to them, but the majority of the information that you will be receiving will be text-based. So having a college-level reading comprehension is essential. Another advantage to distance learning is that you can set up your environment where you're not distracted. You can turn off the answering machine, you can turn off the television, you can ignore party invitations from the guy next door. If you have to get your work done, you have to get your work done. So if you're not an easily distracted person and you can set your own goals and you can stick to them, then chances are you'll be successful in distance learning as well. Now, a lot of people enjoy the face-to-face interaction of a classroom. And if that's something that you feel like you're going to miss, then it may not be a good idea for you to take your course in a distance environment. Maybe it would be better for you to take the course in a face-to-face environment. But if you're comfortable interacting with your instructor and your classmates via some of the electronic communication means like chat boards, discussion boards, email, and that type of thing, then if that doesn't bother you, you'll be successful in distance learning. Now, we come to one of the very important things about a distance learning course, that the instructor is going to assume that you have some computer skills if you're taking a distance course. If you have never touched a computer before, I do not suggest you take a course online the first time. And I think you can probably figure out why. So, you are expected to be familiar with using the internet, with being able to open and close files, being able to print things, being able to save things. And through Blackboard, you will be submitting assignments to your instructors as well. And we'll look at some of that in an actual example. So a distance learning course should not be the very first computer course you take for obvious reasons. Now, on our website, we have a little online quiz, which I'm going to run for you just so that you can take a look. And those of you that have computers at home, you can go home and try this yourself. It's a little online quiz that will allow you to decide whether or not Blackboard and learning online is for you. Okay, on this website, which if you'll notice the URL at the very top, it starts like the normal websites do here at Thomas Nelson, community.tncc.edu/Blackboard. That will take you to a website that has a lot of information for students about Blackboard, and it'll answer a number of questions for you. And on this menu bar on the left, where it says Student Resources, you'll notice the second one down after Quick Start is Online Orientation. We also have an orientation online, and this is part of it, where you can go through and ask yourself these types of questions to find out ahead of time whether you're going to be successful or not in an online course. And when you select these, we have automatic answers that appear that will give you some feedback as to whether or not the selection makes sense for your particular case. In this instance, it says your answer suggests that you would be motivated to complete your online courses. This makes you a good candidate for online learning. And you can go through and answer each of these questions individually and find out honestly whether or not your learning style and your computer skills and the way you go about using your computer and your experience with the web, this type of thing, you can check to see whether or not distance learning will be good for you. So the website that you're going to want to look at, and if you're going to write anything down today, there's two things that I would write down, this being one of them. This is a website that my co-partner Ruth Smith maintains for student information, and it's community.tncc.edu, which is how most websites begin, /Blackboard. This has all kinds of information for students on it. The left-hand bar has student resources, as well as at the top, there are student resources here as well. So this would be a very good place for you to come and poke around for a while and answer some questions. There are information in here concerning pop-up blockers and how to turn them on, what kind of plugins do you need, information about student email. And this is also the link where at the end of the course, if you're going to be evaluating the course, this is the course evaluation that you'll do online for this. And your instructors will direct you with a link in the course to this if they want you to complete this. So this particular website, community.tncc.edu/Blackboard, has a lot of really good student information that you need to look at. That's your first homework assignment this semester. So take a look at this website when you get back. Okay. We also, you and your computer are expected to access your class anywhere from 3 to 5 times a week. It's not daily, because your instructors will be posting announcements and maybe extra credit opportunities or reminders of things. So you should be going into your Blackboard course on a regular basis, a minimum of 3 times a week. Every day would probably be best. Now, to make sure that your computer is up to snuff, so to speak, we have an equipment test that you can look at on this website. And notice it's on the same website. Let's see, with computer compatibility test. I don't know if you can see the little bouncing red ball, but right here, computer compatibility test is what this is. And it lets you know all the different plugins and software that you should have. Basically, if you're using Internet Explorer as your browser, you shouldn't have any problems interacting with Blackboard, which is the content management system that all of your courses will be offered in. Yes, Firefox will work. Yes, AOL may work, but it's 100% compatible with Internet Explorer. And it says 5.5 here, but I would recommend 6 minimum. The Internet Explorer is 6. So we know that Blackboard is 100% compatible with Internet Explorer. Okay. All right, let's talk about the internet. How many of you that have a computer also have an internet connection? Yay! You're not going to get far without that. Now, my next question is, how many of you are still using dial-up? Be honest, put those hands up. Oh, good, only a couple of you. You may want to consider, if you have issues with timing out and that type of thing, you may want to consider upgrading to DSL or cable. It makes it a lot faster. You do a whole lot less waiting. But it is still possible with the dial-up. You're just going to be sitting and twiddling a little bit longer. Now, this particular URL that's available here, and this is also on the website that we were looking at earlier, has some specific what-if questions answered for you already that you may encounter. For example, if you're using AOL as your service provider, you may end up having some issues with Blackboard timing out. And if you have that happen, we have some questions and answers already here. And this is part of that first homework assignment I gave you, to have you look through these resources on that particular student page. And this is part of that. So this will give you some hints about how you can do some troubleshooting and problem solving with your browser and your computer at home. Okay. You must have browser software installed on your computer to be able to access the internet, of course. And like I mentioned earlier, Internet Explorer 6 is 100% compatible with Blackboard, and you won't have any issues if you're using Internet Explorer. How many of you are using AOL as your provider? Okay, now AOL has some problems with Blackboard timing out, so what we suggest is that you log into the computer or you log into the internet with AOL, and then you just minimize the AOL browser and launch Internet Explorer, and then do your work in Internet Explorer. Question? That's a good question. Does anybody know the answer to how to find that out, except for Ruth? All right, here, let's take a look at the browser and we'll show you how. Oops. Okay, in the tool menu, in the help menu up at the top, at the very bottom it'll say About. And this will tell you which version you're running. Notice I'm running 6. Can you see where that is? Okay, in the help menu at the top of the browser window, there's always a help. And at the very bottom of most help menus, there's an about that describes the version of that particular software. You'll find that in most software, not just Internet Explorer. So about Internet Explorer will show what version, and you can see here that I'm running version 6.0.29. Yes, sir?
5.5.
It will
work.
It will work.
Last supported Macintosh version.
Yes.
If I can find it anymore, because you can't download it from Microsoft anymore.
If you're using a Macintosh,
MacBook Pro,
you should be using Firefox, Mozilla.
Mozilla.
Mozilla, or Camino. Okay.
That's a better choice than Internet Explorer.
Okay.
When
And
you run the
Firefox has a plug-in that will emulate Internet Explorer. So that's just an add-on that you can download and add it to
From
Firefox.
Mozilla?
From Mozilla. Okay, any other questions about that? Now, while I happen to be, no other questions, while I happen to be here, one of the things that you need to make sure is off is your pop-up blocker. Most of you are using a pop-up blocker to keep those little ads from accumulating 40,000 windows open on your screen. But when you're using Blackboard deploys pop-up blockers to have things open. So if your pop-up blocker is on while you're using Blackboard, it's going to limit the functionality and not be able to open certain things. So while I'm here on the Internet Explorer window, who knows how to turn off your pop-up blocker? Yes, sir.
Whenever you see it on the top, there's like
A yellow bar.
little bar on the top,
Mhm.
right behind the URL, underneath the URL. And on the top right, there's a little X
Mhm.
that shows the options. You want it temporarily,
Or permanently
or
for the
permanently
site.
for that
Mhm.
matter.
Okay, now that's one way. There's another way with one of the menus up here. Does anybody know that way? Tools, very good. So if you go up to the Tools menu, the second command down is the pop-up blocker, where you can turn it on, turn it off, or adjust how it's going to work. So that would be where I would look there, in the Tools menu. Okay? Alrighty, let's continue. Okay, now, there is a browser test that we have available for you where all you have to do is launch this test in your browser and it'll show you whether or not you have all the available plugins that you need, whether you've got Java, Flash, Adobe, that type of thing. I'm going to show you this so that you can see what to expect. This is an awesome program that automatically will pop up and show you what your computer has available on it. And if you see check marks, you're good to go. Okay, now I have an X and a question mark. That means I should be looking at whatever comes up as an X or a question mark. I do not have the free plugin Real Player installed. So to install it, there's an icon on the right-hand side here. And for some reason, the GIF's not coming up. I'm not sure why.
We'll fix it.
But when you click on it, it will take you to where the website is where you can download that plugin for free, and all these plugins are free. So we do have a nice little browser test that you can use to test out your system to make sure as to whether or not you have the current Flash, the current Shockwave, if you have your cookies enabled, if you've got Java running, that type of thing. So if you go through this test on your computer before you start your course, then you will have all the hardware and software available that you need to be successful in your course. Okay, now as I've alluded to already, online courses here at Thomas Nelson are delivered by the content management system called Blackboard, and we're currently using Blackboard version 6.2. This summer, we will be rolling to version 7.1. So there will be a little bit of a change between spring and summer. Not so much from the student point of view, but from the instructor's point of view. So before logging into Blackboard, you have two very important things that you must know. And that's your username and your password so that you can get into Blackboard. And your username is the first part of the login that you would use here on My VCCS when you log in. and this isn't live. I'm going to go live in just a minute. Now, once you're logged in into Blackboard, you will see a number of tabs across the top of your screen. We've got a TNCC, a Learn, a Teach, and some others. Your courses will be listed under the Learn tab. And when you click on the Learn tab, you'll be able to see all the courses that you have been enrolled in. And it's just a matter of clicking on the course to go into the course and see what your instructor has for you. Okay? Let's take a look. Okay, I have a course here that's open as a student. And this is a live class. This is a live student. We have the TNCC tab, Learn, Student Connect, Research, and Help. And I want you to notice two little buttons on the far right-hand side over here. Take a look. Content and Layout. You, as a student, have complete editing rights as to what is visible on this particular page. So when you go home, your second homework assignment is to click on Contents and then click on Layout. And I want you to modify and make this be what you want it to be as far as what you would like to see. For example, there's a lot of modules here that are already plugged into Blackboard, and these resources are available to you with a little click and a checkbox. For example, if you're taking a literature course or a history course, you might want to use some of these Merlot resources. If you would like to have a calendar available so that you can see when Martin Luther King's Day off is this month, then you can turn that on. If you're into New York Times, you can check any of these resources here. You can get the news. There's even information from other community colleges here. See, here's RCC, Southside. You can even have your email link, as well as a few other tools like a TextPad or a thesaurus. And I've got the Weather Channel on mine because I work inside concrete walls and I never see the sun. So every once in a while I like to click on that and find out what's going on outside. So once you select with check boxes the resources that you like, in Blackboard, there's always a submit at the bottom. Blackboard does not like it when you use the green back and forward arrows at the top. Blackboard likes to be told with a submit and an OK what you're doing on the screen. So here's my OK. And what I've done now is I've added that one module. And I scroll down. There's the calendar right here. Now let's say that I don't want that calendar here. Maybe I want to rearrange these modules so that I can have things a little more convenient for me. That's the point of the layout button that I directed you to earlier. Contents just decides what goes on the page. Layout lets you decide where it goes on the page. So I can take this calendar and using these up arrows, I can put it up at the top on the right-hand side, or I could use this arrow and move it over to the left-hand side. So you can decide what you want to have on your tabs so that it's convenient for you personally. And every student has this right to make these changes. You can also color coordinate your tabs. I happen to like green, as you can tell. So when I click Submit now, you'll see the changes. Notice my bars, instead of being a boring gray, are now a pretty lovely forest green. And the calendar is at the top left instead of being at the bottom right. So by using contents and layouts, you can change the information around in your Blackboard tabs to meet your needs. Now, the Blackboard courses that you see here, these would be the courses that you would be enrolled in. Sometimes there are announcements visible here, but you can choose to turn those on or off if you would like to by using this little pencil icon right here. Anytime you see a little pencil, that means you can make changes. So I would click around and explore, because you can't really do too much damage as long as you click cancel at the end instead of submit. So here's the courses that I have. Maybe some of these courses were courses I took last semester that I don't want to look at in my list anymore. All you have to do is turn off the check marks, and the course will not be displayed. If you don't want to see the announcements with your courses, you can turn off the announcements. That doesn't mean you turn them off in the whole course, that just means you take them out of this one page where you may be wanting to look at your courses as opposed to the announcements. So you can make modifications here, and Blackboard provides you with this really cool place down here, part 2. I have a Netscape account, an email account. That's my home email account. Every once in a while, I like to check it, but I don't want to do it outside of Blackboard. I kind of want to do it while I'm in Blackboard, so I don't have to exit one thing and load up another. Well, you can put up to 5 different external URLs here. So if you want to have Google image search here, or if you want to have your teacher's website here, or if you want to have your email, or if you want to have MapQuest, or whatever, you can have up to 5 different external websites here. And when you put them in and click submit, they become a link just like your courses do at the bottom of your course list. So here's my Netscape right here. So that would come up down here at the bottom of your list. Okay, so let's go into a course. Well, I hated chemistry as a student, so let's go into chemistry. Okay, so this is an example of what a course would look like. There's a button bar or a menu bar on the left, and this is how you navigate through your instructor's course. There's a banner graphic usually up at the top, and this is where your announcements will be. When your instructor has something important that they want to tell you at a distance, this is where it will appear. So you will be navigating through the course by clicking on the buttons on the left based on what it is that the assignments are that your instructor gives you. And in the first announcement that you see, there will generally be a, here's how I want you to start, click on this first kind of an announcement. So you should go in and look at your courses. Most 16-week courses will be active and available as of Saturday the 6th. So you'll be able to go in and look at your courses beginning Saturday, unless your instructor has turned them on already because they're done already. So you will be going through and viewing, you can view your announcements with the announcement button, and every announcement that your instructor puts will be here for the entire course, because these 4 little tabs right here will allow you to go back and look at all the announcements that were made throughout the entire course. You can view just the last month's worth of announcements, just the last week's worth of announcements, or just the announcements that were posted today. So you can change that up. Yes, sir?
So right now, when we first log into Blackboard, today or last night or whatever,
If your course is not visible.
Say, you're not enrolled in any courses.
Right, because the courses will be turned on Saturday. So I would look after 8 o'clock Saturday morning. Okay? Any other good questions like that? Yes, sir.
Is that all?
Ma'am, excuse me, can't see.
Is that all courses, even the 8-week courses y'all have?
16-week courses begin this Saturday, the 6th. 8-week 1 courses would begin at the same time, but the 8-week 2 courses will begin for 8 weeks later.
Okay.
So if you're taking an 8-week 2 course, it will not be available until another month or so.
Okay.
Okay? Other questions about availability? All right, let's go on. Okay, so if you don't see your course listed, like somebody asked, the first line of defense that I would offer you as a suggestion would be to contact your instructor either via email or leaving a phone message. If you have just enrolled in the class within the last 24 hours, it may not show, it may not roll over into your classes for another class list for another 24 hours. So again, contact your instructor if you don't see your name in the course list. And if you find out that if you are enrolled as a student in the course, to find out any other further information, you should be contacting your instructor first. So I hope you see that there's a pattern developing here. You should begin with your instructor first, because a lot of times the instructor can solve the problem or help you to be directed to solve the problem. They would know where to point you. So I would start with your instructor first as far as help.
Question.
Now, this is
Question.
the old URL, isn't it?
Every URL, no, that's the new URL. The
This
other
is the
one's
new
the old
one?
one. You don't have to use the word community anymore, just the word TNCC.
Ah, okay.
You had a question.
Ah, yes, ma'am.
What if you're using the password doesn't work?
Help desk.
Excuse me?
Help desk.
Yes, help desk. And this is something that I would have write down. Remember I said there were 2 things you should write down? The second thing is help desk 825-2709. 825-2709. We have 2 lovely people that are there to answer all of your questions as to how come I can't see my course, or what am I enrolled in, or any other issues that you may have. We have the lovely Lana in the morning, and we have Brian in the afternoon. So the help desk, if your instructor cannot help you with the issue, then they will probably direct you for the help desk, which is 2709, extension 2709. They go till late in
10.
10?
10 o'clock at night.
10 o'clock
and
at night.
The hours on the weekends vary, but they are covering during the first week of class. So you should be able to get somebody until 10 o'clock. 8.
8 o'clock, 8 to 10, and there's usually somebody on in the evenings, Monday through Thursday.
Friday. Monday through Friday.
Nobody's listed on Friday.
There's a couple questions in the back, Jane.
Oh, good, thank you.
You're welcome. If you have a schedule that tells you Monday and Wednesday, but it has the B in front of the course number, does that mean that you go to class on Monday and Wednesday?
Blended. B.
B, that's blended. That means you'll be working face-to-face some of the course and distance some of the course. It's a hybrid or blended course. So it'll have some face-to-face and some part of the coursework you'll be working online. Any other questions that I missed earlier? Yes, sir.
I don't know my password and my username for my BCSS.
And the extension you would call would be?
2709?
Yes, sir. You get an A. Question over here?
Well, I didn't hear you. I had the same question as he had, the username and password. Can you repeat that? I don't get it.
Call the help desk, and they can direct you further, which is 825-2709.
You can also use the self-help at My TNCC off the main webpage. You click on the link that says My TNCC, and it'll walk you through a wizard of setting it up. You have to know your own social security number to do that.
Okay.
Okay, or if you still have trouble, then you want to call the help desk, but you should be able to find it off the main webpage.
Okay. All right. New clicker. Here we go. This is what she was referring to. When you log into this website, tncc.my.bccs.edu, it'll bring you here to this page. And the advantage of logging in here is that not only do you get Blackboard, but you get email and your SIS for grades as well. But, forgot your password, you can reset it this way. New to the college, look up your username and set your password. So there are 2 self-help things here as well. So there's lots of resources for you available throughout the web and on this particular site here on the way into Blackboard. Okay. Let's go to where we need to be. All right, now this particular website we already looked at once. This is the one that I wanted you to write down first. Remember, this is also a resource that you have to answer any questions. We have a lot of questions that we're asked on a regular basis, and those we've answered already on this particular website. So please make sure that you take a look at that. Remember, this is the one that started out community.tncc. We took off the community. It still works either way. So if all else fails, where do you go? And the extension is 2709. You need to remember that. And for those of you that want to walk into the help desk, it's behind the library in Griffin Hall.
With Paul.
With Hall?
Behind the library. Right, near
yeah.
the parking office, everybody.
Right next to the parking office where you get your parking stickers. I'm sure some of you have stood in line there. So right next to that is the help desk. Okay, now we have some do and don't tips. Hopefully, by going through these tips, none of you will make this ARG face during your semester, so we'll take a look. Please be flexible and adaptable when you're in an online course. Things happen. We don't have we haven't had any snow yet this year, but the circus is coming. And that's usually, for those of you that live in this area, you know that when the circus comes to town, we get snow. And that's usually the end of February, early March. So when bad weather and inclement weather happens, sometimes power failures happen, sometimes computers go down, this type of thing. It's very important for you to be flexible. Sometimes extensions have to be given to dates. If everybody's down and you can't get on Blackboard, please don't email your instructor and ask if she can get on Blackboard or if he can get on Blackboard, because chances are if you can't, they can't too. And then they just have 50 more emails that they have to answer. So be flexible, be adaptable when you're working online. And this is very important. Make sure that you overschedule the amount of time that you plan for each of your activities, because whenever you involve a computer in the mix, it tends to complicate things. So if you think it's going to take you 4 hours to do an assignment, lot yourself 5, just in case. Make sure that you have the appropriate software and plugins necessary for the course to take advantage of the URLs that we shared with you today, so that you can independently make sure that your computer and you are ready before your course begins. Don't expect your instructor at a distance to be able to solve the problems on your computer in your house, because there's no way they can see what you're doing. What we suggest is you find some 14-year-old in the neighborhood and you buy him a pizza and let him come over and work on your computer for you. Chances are that will probably solve the problem. Make sure that you're aware of how much flexibility is in the course. Some instructors have more flexibility built into the course as far as when assignments are turned in. It's your responsibility to make sure that you are well aware of what your deadlines are and how much flexibility the course has. Many times in a distance course, if you're having an exam, you have a window between X day and X day that you must complete the test online. Make sure that you're aware of that and don't begin the exam. If the exam is over at midnight, don't start it at 11:50. You know, you've got to be a little responsible about this. Do not get behind, because when you get behind, it's almost impossible to catch up. And when you get behind in a distance course, it may put months or years on your graduation date, because if you're taking a course you have to graduate and you get behind in the assignments and it's a distance course, it may cause you to not graduate on time. So it's very important that you don't let it snowball. So if you're having issues, you need to make sure that you speak up to your instructor before, notice instructors I'm saying, before the deadline. Don't wait till the deadline comes and goes and then whine to your instructor about, oh, this happened and that happened. Be responsible and do it ahead of time. Make sure that you communicate with your instructor and your students, other students that are in your course. Many times instructors have help discussion boards where if you're having issues, you can post a question and that has everybody's eyes so that you can get a response from not only your instructor but also other students who may be more experienced or have made the same mistake you have and know what the solution is. So make sure that you're willing to speak up and don't be afraid to communicate with your instructor and your classmates in a distance course. Make sure that you regularly check your course, 3 times minimum. It should be every day. Yes, ma'am, I see a hand.
Yes. Do they have office hours, the instructors online?
Yes, they do, and they would probably be done via a chat or a web-based conferencing, and that's outlined, and by telephone sometimes, and that's outlined in the syllabus, and you should look at your course syllabus from your instructor to find out specifically how they're going to do office hours, because that can be done a number of ways. Yes, ma'am?
Would an instructor could I ever come to the campus to talk to my instructor?
You certainly can. They all work here. But email would be my first choice. I would email the instructor first and then get your time straight as to when to meet before you drive all the way out here.
Another thing.
Yes, ma'am.
What happens, say I don't understand something online, and is it possible for me to come to her class or his classroom?
You could, but there's probably a way to communicate that issue in the class itself through a discussion board. So I would go through your syllabus first and make sure you understand how she's going to deal with that kind of a thing. And it's usually different from professor to professor. I can't make a general statement about that. But all the professors here are very willing to answer questions and offer help. So I would email the instructor first and before the course begins, if you're concerned. Okay? Any other questions that I may have missed because of the house lights being on? Yes? The syllabus will be in one of those buttons on the left-hand menu bar that I showed you earlier. And remember, the courses, the 16-week courses, do not have to be available until Saturday. Some of the instructors, they have the right to turn them on whenever they're ready. Some of them turn them on a week or so ahead so that people can get in there and get started. But it's up to your individual instructor. They have to be on by 8 o'clock Saturday morning. Is that correct, 8 o'clock? Whenever we flip the switch? Now, another thing that's very important is that you read your Thomas Nelson email, not your Netscape, not your Hotmail, not your AOL or your Yahoo. Your instructors will be communicating with you via email, but it will be your Thomas Nelson official email. So don't email your instructor hotbaby@hotmail.com and expect your instructor to know who you are, okay? Use your official Thomas Nelson email for communications in your distance courses. Okay? And when you do email your instructor, please be sure that you include some essentials like who you are, what section you're in, because many of these instructors teach 5 to 7 sections. So having an idea of which class you're in narrows it down. Make sure that you provide some kind of return address and be very succinct in what you're asking. Don't just come up and say something like, I don't understand problem 2, and that's it. I mean, there could have been 20 problem 2s. So be very specific in your communications, okay? Now, just because it's online doesn't mean you don't take notes. It all depends on your learning style. I'm a visual and tactile learner, which means I remember things better by seeing and by doing. So when I learned Spanish, I rewrote my notes a lot to help memorize what the terms were. So even though you're in a distance learning course, you will be still taking notes on key topics, and that's a good way to help organize your thoughts and prepare for exams. Be sure that you are willing to commit a minimum of 6 to 9 hours of work for your distance courses. A lot of people think, oh, I'm taking a distance course, it's going to be easy. Not. Because you're involving a computer in the mix. It's not going to be that easy. So you need to make sure that you commit a minimum of 6 to 9 hours, which is what you would be doing in a face-to-face course anyway. If you're taking a 3-credit course, you're going to meet 6 hours a week. So you should have a minimum of 6 hours scheduled for classwork, and probably more. So I would overestimate as opposed to underestimating, and then if you finish a little early, you go have a cup of coffee, you're relaxing, watch TV. But you plan ahead, and you make sure you over-budget your time so that you will have plenty of time to finish your work. Please make sure that if you're having issues that you tell somebody about it. If you don't understand something, post a question in a discussion board that's made for that. Post an email. Ask somebody else. But please speak up, either to your instructor or to your classmates. If you have an issue or you have a question and you don't tell anybody about it, nobody's going to know. So make sure that you are open and communicate when you have any problems. Okay, now one of the keys to being successful in distance learning is frequently going into your course and taking a look at what's going on and what's new. So make sure that you're interacting frequently with your classmates and your peers. Make sure that you're willing to share ideas and be prepared to have your ideas challenged. And in a lot of distance courses, you do peer reviews of your assignments, where you review other people's assignments as a collective group. So you're going to need to make sure that you're willing to share ideas and have your ideas challenged and make sure that you can support your ideas. Okay, you see the death head? Don't send a mad email. If you're frustrated, email it to yourself. before you click that send button, because after you click that send button, it's gone. So if you're frustrated, if you're having problems, don't flame anybody. Don't send obnoxious emails, because once you click that send button, there's no taking it back. Another thing that you can do to make sure that your message is sincerely understood is to employ emoticons. Use the little happy faces. Put little parentheses and grin. You know, put in emoticons and other jargon that you can use in a distance environment to help communicate the emotion behind your thoughts, because there is no tone in email. You know, you may think it says one thing or another, but it may not necessarily be the intent of the reader or the writer. So make sure that when you're writing in a text-only environment, that your words are unambiguous. Now, you will be required to cooperate with classmates on projects, so be sure that you're able to work well with others. Even if your communication is restricted to email, there's still ways to communicate with other students, as well as discussion boards and online chats. So there are a number of ways that you can communicate with your instructor and your classmates in a distance environment, just like there would be face-to-face. However, just because it's a distance course, it shouldn't be any less rigorous or any less top quality than any of the traditional courses that you will take here on campus at Thomas Nelson. Okay, now at this point, I want to ask the house if there's any individual questions that would benefit the group, and then we're going to I'm going to introduce the faculty that are here that would like to break out and see their students that may be here tonight. So the first thing I want to do is ask the students if you have any Blackboard related or other questions that would benefit the group. If you have individual questions that you want to talk to either Ruth or me privately after the orientation, you're welcome to come up to us and do that then. I see one, I see two, I see three. We'll start.
Question is, I never use Blackboard, or when I do use Blackboard, does it apply to this school? Can it also apply to other schools? Because I'm planning to go to school in California.
If they use Blackboard, then when you log in there, you may see a TNCC tab.
Right.
No? No, that's only in Virginia?
If you transfer to the VCCS platform is Blackboard.
Okay.
Blackboard is the major player in the distance learning field. WebCT is the second major player. Blackboard bought WebCT. So most of the time, most colleges are going to use Blackboard if that's their e-learning environment.
So we have 23 community colleges in the VCCS system, and we all went together and decided that Blackboard is the vehicle that we're going to use for distance learning.
And when you transfer to a Virginia in-state school, they use Blackboard. ODU uses it, VCU uses it, University of Richmond, UVA. It's all pretty consistent.
And that's in Virginia. Now, California, you can call and ask. Or email them and ask. There was another question here? Okay, there was another one over here. Yes, ma'am. I would, because there are different things that go on. There are discussion boards that you may have classmates that have posted questions that you could answer. I would check in your courses on a daily basis just to see if there's anything new. Saturday is the slated time for all classes for this spring semester to begin, the 16-week courses to start.
You don't have to log in Saturday, but I would log in as soon as possible. And your course syllabus from your instructor will probably key you in check this many times a week, or or whatever. You gotta read the syllabus. They're required to have the courses on by Saturday. Some of them are on already for you to look at. But if you can't get to the computer Saturday, then you check it on Monday if you're using a work computer. But do it as soon as possible, because you have to log in. Everybody in this room has to log in, because it tracks you within the first week, particularly if you're on financial aid. Okay, you must log into the course the first week.
We have ways of finding out if you've been in here. Course statistics. Your instructor can tell whether you clicked on X, Y, Z, when you clicked, how many times you clicked, and what was in the coffee cup next to you when you clicked. All right, there were 3 questions. Were there any others from the students? Yes, ma'am.
I have a question about the 8 week at the end of the semester.
Okay?
How would you still be enrolled, even if I'm enrolled now, but will I still be enrolled in March if I don't click in on the 6th?
Yeah, it won't go anywhere. The course, the 18-week, I mean, the 8-week courses will be turned on by the instructor at the appropriate time. So that would be, if you're taking an 8-week 2 course, that would be when you would log in.
All right, so
You can log in anytime and change your contents and your layouts and look at what courses you're enrolled in. You can do that at any time. But that one class, that line that you click on to go into the class, that one line will not be there until the appropriate time.
So, but it will say you're still enrolled.
It should. Well, it won't say. I
Not
don't
in
believe it will say
Blackboard.
that you're enrolled in
Your SIS will tell you if you're enrolled, your student information system, the My TNCC. That'll tell you, but that instructor doesn't have to turn that course on
Until March, yeah.
until March. But a lot of times they turn it on earlier.
Okay. Any other questions that I may have missed? All right, then let's go ahead and start with the faculty. I have a list of math instructors and computer science instructors. The following courses, if you are enrolled in the following courses, they will be meeting out this hallway to the left in room 825. So if you're enrolled in Math 04, 151, 152, 163, or 164, or any computer science course, CSC course, then you can be meeting your instructors in room 825, which is out here down to the left. Okay, and we have some of the math instructors here. Introduce yourselves real quick.
I'm Miss Rader, 163 and 164.
Okay.
Dan Sims, Math 04.
Larry.
Larry Lewis, Math 151, Computer Science Everything.
Ms. Hawthorne.
Shirley Hawthorne, Math 152.
And the big guy.
West Rumbler on Math 173, 174.
Is Henry here with you? And he teaches the same thing? 174. Okay. Any other instructors in this wing that I've missed? Okay, do we have any instructors on the floor? Okay.
Dale Rush,
Stand down.
Dale Rush, ASP 107.
Okay, and there was one other instructor on the floor?
I just felt the history, 121 and 122.
All right. And where would you like to meet with your students?
Just out to the hall into the other.
Out in the foyer, okay? And over on this right-hand side, we have Keith Scott.
Heath Scott, English 112, and I'll be meeting my students in 916, which is just right upstairs.
Okay, and over here, we have Alex Woodland.
Yes, Alex Woodland, drafting 151, opposite in the, right outside the lobby.
Okay, thank you.